Europe likely to hold together against Russia? Do we see Russia's real influence in Europe's economic future diminishing? We've talked about the economic impact, which is only going to get worse.
Thank you, Mark. In fact, Europe does not have any option other than sticking together. Because whether in terms of Russia being a potential threat to Western Europe or Western Europe being extremely dependent in terms of energy, they must stand together in that sense. And so far we have seen that there has been enormous support that Europe has provided to Ukraine. In fact, that has what particularly frustrated to some extent Russian operations, military operations in Ukraine, and war has gone on for more than 7 months now. And all that you've seen is that Russian presence has gradually been pushed to the eastern side. And more recently, I think because there was very clear news around the world about the setbacks that Russian forces were facing, even in that limited eastern southern area of Ukraine. And then the most important Sunday attack on that iconic symbolic bridge that joins mainland Russia to the Crimean Peninsula, and of course also is a supply line for their forces operating in that sense. So, or you could even add that the way Nobel Peace Prize was being awarded. So there were certain triggers that perhaps forced or frustrated the Russian side to showcase a certain kind of a blitzkrieg again. And it simply reminds how the war had originally begun. I mean, it's a major upgradation of multiple cities being under attack.
Absolutely, it's a major escalation.
I think this requires some kind of a response from Western nations now.
Okay. Professor Swaran Singh, Russia's response shows, as we've been discussing, that it's willing to use, to up the, to escalate, to use missiles attacks to defend aggression on its annexed territories. Now, India and most of the world have asked for cessation of hostilities. What kind of response will you expect at a time like this? I mean, everyone is pushing them to dialogue, but will they listen?
I think very clearly the sense that I have for the last several weeks now is that President Putin is fundamentally looking for a face saver at this stage. Now, obviously, he cannot be going home with a clear defeat and withdrawing his forces completely out of Ukraine. So what he did on 30th of September is to, declare that the 4 regions where the so-called referendum took place, that they are now part of Russia, and the point that even those are not becoming kind of defendable to Russia is something which is creating an enormous problem for Russia. So in that sense, I think the West has to now begin to work on what kind of face saver is the West willing to agree so that this conflict finally comes to an end. Because if you look at the level of destruction that last 7 months have brought to Ukraine, it is fine to say that the West is competing and West is, enabling Ukraine to withstand Russian onslaught.
Sure.
But the kind of damage on the ground is enormous, and therefore earlier this conflict comes to an end is better. And my quick point on this would be that since it is a given clash of egos between major powers, basically 2 powers, United States and Russia, here is a space for middle powers like India to play a certain role. And we have seen Turkey, for instance, has managed a bit of a success in, at some stage, opening Black Sea for food grains to be exported. So I think middle powers is where some kind of possibility of thinking out of box lies. But fundamentally, at this stage, I think all we need to do is provide a face saver to President Putin. Now, what exactly that would be will be a matter of bargain for both sides.
Ambassador Swaran, what is